I'm really delighted to welcome you all today. This is one of our Emerging Minds Open Lab meetings, but we're really delighted to welcome our CoRAY team today, and that includes Laurie, who is our research assistant, and Dr. Rebecca Watson, who's our postdoctoral researcher for the CoRAY project. And we're also really delighted to be joined by our co-researchers from the McPin Foundation. So Georgia, we're really delighted can join us in person today, but we've also pre-recorded some contributions from other team members, so including Rose, James and Jodie. So without further ado then, I will really pleased to hand over to Becca, who's going to introduce us to the project.
Great. Thanks so much, Emily, and thank you so much all for joining us today. So yeah, we're really excited to share our findings with you today. So just going to give a really brief overview of our broader kind of CoRAY project. So this has been a knowledge mobilisation project. So we've been really interested in trying to take what we know from research, from evidence, and translating that into making resources that are accessible and engaging for young people. So this is something that we've been working on throughout the pandemic. And a really key part of this project is having young people at the centre, having young people's voices really prominent, and making sure that we're listening very much to what young people want and need. And so as a part of that, I'm really keen to explore that a little bit more. So what is it actually young people, that they were, and why do they get involved in research, and what maybe are the benefits to them, what are some of the challenges really. So that's just a little bit of kind of context of where we've come to. And for the CoRAY project, we were particularly focused on young people aged 11 to 16 living in the UK. And so that has been kind of predominantly our what we've been focusing on in this particular qualitative study, is that sort of slightly younger end of sort of the teenage years, people's experiences. So we've had some young people involved who've kind of been reflecting back on that age group, and also capturing the experiences of young people who are that age at the moment. So yeah, so what we're going to be talking about today is our qualitative study. So as I said, we're really interested in exploring the experiences of young people who've been involved in mental health research, and in as many ways as possible. And from looking at the academic literature, we saw there was very little there about actually, what young people take away from their experiences being involved in research. And often the focus is very much on perhaps more the benefits to the research or to the researchers. So we've taken this study looking, very much at what the experiences are for young people, but also really keen to kind of extrapolate from that and learn, as researchers, as people working, mental health professionals, how we can engage young people in a meaningful way for both the research and for the young people as well. So we will talk about that a little bit more at the end. So we recruited young people to take part in this study to talk about their experiences of being involved in mental health research. So we did this by kind of existing networks and studies that we were kind of aware of, and through our kind of extensive different networks and things. So for our CoRAY project, we had a specific kind of advisory group, and young people have been involved in different parts of that. But we realised that was quite, one unique experience, one, particular way to be involved in research. So we were keen to capture, young people who've been involved in different ways in different studies as well. So we conducted 13 qualitative interviews with young people. So participants, as it were, between 11 and 24. And as I said, that they were involved in research between the ages of 11 to 16. And as we've already mentioned, we were really delighted for the co-researchers, so that some young people from the McPin Foundation to be very much co-leading those interviews. And so this was like a really integral part of this study, and something that we'll reflect on more as we go on. There's been lots of benefits to that, hopefully, for the research and for everybody involved as well. So really delighted to have some co-researchers with us today. So I'm just going to hand over to Lowry now, who's going to talk a little bit about the specifically more about the collaborative thematic analysis process that we've done. And this is something that I don't think has been done all that much in the research literature as well. So something that we were definitely keen to involve, and yeah, great to have people's kind of thoughts and reflections on as well. Thanks, Lowry.
Hi everyone. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about this process of collaborative thematic analysis. So obviously we were really, really lucky to have the co-researchers on board, and they've been such an asset to the project. They're able to bring their expertise from being involved in research themselves, and they've also been really enthusiastic, which has been really great. So to kind of train them up, we did a bit of background in qualitative methods and thematic analysis so that they'd be really best equipped to contribute to our collaborative analysis. So this was kind of a creative adaptation of Braun and Clark's reflective thematic analysis. So we worked quite closely with Christina McMillan from the University of Glasgow, who also runs the Triumph Network. So we kind of met with her and discussed what we could do and how this might work best. And we decided upon this approach where we had each co-researcher code 1 or 2 transcripts from interviews that they had done, so they were already immersed in the data. And then from there, we took all of the codes that they came up with. Obviously, having lots and lots of different people coding means that you've got lots of different variances just in language. You might be expressing the same idea in a code, but there might just be slightly different ways that you name that code to describe it. So what we did is we collated all of these codes together, and then we met and we kind of started picking apart the differences, the similarities in these codes, the kind of ideas that everyone had picked out, and we started to distill these down into a synergistic kind of code book that we could use as part of our collaborative analysis, that we'd agreed upon all of these codes based on everyone's inputs. That was a really great process. And from there, we used our codes to start theme development. So initially we worked in smaller groups. So there were 5 co-researchers plus both myself and Becca and Christina McMillan. And then we broke down into even smaller groups to start developing some initial themes. And then we came back together to kind of present our thematic analysis and our initial kind of thoughts about how we might arrange this into themes. We came back together and kind of started picking that apart again. So it was really really collaborative in that we were able to, go back and forth and build on each other's ideas and stuff. So then that kind of led us to our first full thematic arrangement. And then that obviously underwent a number of reflexive changes according to the input of the researchers, co-researchers, and the principal investigator to kind of arrive at our final 4 themes. But, we were really basing this on Braun and Clark's reflexive thematic analysis. So it has involved a lot of going back and forth, going back to those codes, back to the transcripts. And we've tried to involve the co-researchers along every step of the way. So what we've done is we've had kind of shared open documents where we can add comments, edit. So it really has been a good iterative and collaborative process. So now we'll just move on to talking a little bit about what those themes look like. So these were the overall findings. We had 4 main themes. So we had having the opportunity to have a meaningful impact, the opportunity to be part of a supportive community, the opportunity to learn and grow, and also this idea of increasing opportunities for young people. So the idea was that we have these kind of 3 themes that are about what young people are taking away, what they're gaining from their participation in research, and also how this relates to what they want other people to be able to get from it as well. So a lot of young people, it was quite altruistic, saying that they wanted everyone to have those opportunities to get the same out of things that they had, but also that they wanted access to more opportunities themselves. Yeah, so I will now hand over to our first co-researcher, Georgia, who is going to have a bit of a deeper chat through our first theme.
Hi everyone. So the theme I focused on was called The Opportunity to Have a Meaningful Impact. And then this theme had 3 sub-themes. The first sub-theme is called Helping Others and Using My Time in a Meaningful Way. So I found that the young people described using the spare time to help improve the lives of others as being rewarding. They felt like they were using their time to do something meaningful. Being involved in research not only gave them the opportunity to make positive changes, but also allowed young people to learn new valuable skills and knowledge, which is different to the ones that they would usually learn in school. Being involved in research also gave the young people the opportunity to meet other young people who had similar experiences to those that they had themselves. They found that it felt good to work alongside other like-minded people who were all there to do something impactful with their time. The young people found comfort in knowing that the other young people they were working with also had these similar experiences, which made it all that more meaningful. Knowing that their work could potentially have a positive impact on the lives of other young people is also a motivating factor to why people wanted to get involved in the research, because they were able to use their negative experiences and turn these into positive experiences, which was like a key reason why young people liked getting involved. And as well as this, being involved in research that is related to a topic that's similar to what they experienced allowed the conversations to open up about these experiences. So the young people might not have been given the opportunity or had the space to talk about these topics before. So that made it quite like more meaningful as well, because they were able to do that. And then the second sub-theme is called A Sense of Achievement, Pride in Seeing Your Impact. So yeah, here the young people mentioned that their involvement in research felt particularly rewarding because they were able to observe the work they've done outside in the real world. So interviewees mentioned things like seeing their work published in articles and books and presenting it to members of parliament as well. So being involved in research and doing something worthwhile with their spare time outside of school just allowed the young people to feel like they've achieved something, because they were using this time to help improve the lives of others. The young people also mentioned feeling empowered by the work because they were able to talk to adults about topics that they knew more about than what the adults did. So this gave the young people an opportunity to teach people older than them new things. So being involved in research just allowed them to share their opinions and knowledge and gave them a chance to prove to people that they have more to offer than what some people might think. And then the third and final sub-theme is called Seeing It Through, the Importance of Showing Young People Their Impact. So here the young people spoke about how being involved in the projects from start to finish made them feel like they'd had a significant impact on the outcomes of the project. By giving them the opportunity to be fully invested in all the elements from the setup to the planning stage and the dissemination of findings, as well as being hands-on through the decision making, made them feel like they had control over the direction the project was going in. So giving them the chance to sort of practice leadership allowed them to really shape the research, and that made their involvement feel that bit more meaningful as well. They also said that it was important for researchers to build a relationship with them over the course of the project, just so they'd feel more comfortable and valued throughout their involvement. And the key to this was regular communication. They also emphasised that it was important for researchers to keep the young people updated after their involvement had finished as well, just so it proved to the young people that the researchers felt that their input was really valued. And after investing so much time in a project, the young people like to be kept updated with where the project is now and what their work's achieved over time. And then finally, the researchers should ensure that all positive outcomes of the project that the project achieves in the real world are shared with the young people, because it's really meaningful for the young people to see how their work has really helped other people.
Brilliant, thanks, Georgia. Yeah, so some of what Georgia said there will be covered also a little bit in well, it links really nicely to this next theme, which is kind of about the relationships young people built with peers, the relationships they had with the researchers, and how this kind of all contributed to us having a safe space for them to talk about mental health and mental health issues and their own experiences. So for this, we've got some recordings from our co-researcher, James.
So under this first sub-theme of relationships with the other young people involved in research, I just want to make 3 points, and I'll offer a quote relating to each every time. So the first point is just the importance of friendship. The second point is the importance of time together. And the third point is the importance of time together in person. So firstly, the importance of friendship. So Darren talked about the kind of common goal that everyone's coming together for with the research. Obviously, everyone has different goals, but overall, almost everyone who got involved in mental health research wanted to achieve the goal of creating impactful research and helping other young people. And I'm talking here about the importance of friendship. Julia said, in order to move forward towards that goal, we need to be good friends and we need to get on with each other. I think that just says it all, doesn't it? It's very different to how we normally work in the world, but being friends with each other when we do work is actually quite helpful sometimes. The second theme that I wanted to pull out was just the importance of time together. So this might look different for anyone, but Anya had quite an extreme example and really appreciated it. So I just wanted to mention what she said. So she said, as part of the research, every evening we would go out, and it was in central London. So we would go out and do something. One day we had a pizza making workshop. We went to see a play or something another day. And I think that helped us make proper bonds with the other people. So obviously not everyone's going to do all this stuff, but people tended to really appreciate it when they did do it. And finally, I just want to mention the importance of being online. So being in person rather than just online where possible. So we found that a lot of young people talked about the value of this community when they were people who had met in person, but they talked about it, the supportive community, as something that they lacked if they only met online. So I just wanted to mention a quote from Leah. So she said, if we were in person, then we probably would be quite close to each other. We could bond more. So this kind of stresses the absence of that in-person interaction and someone who was longing for it. Whereas in contrast, a lot of the people who had in-person interaction really stressed that it was valuable for them. So the second sub-theme that I just want to mention is the importance of the researchers in creating this supportive environment. So I just want to mention 3 points. Firstly is the preconceptions that young people might have about researchers. Secondly is the importance of being friendly, researchers being friendly. And thirdly is the importance of researchers being understanding about the young people's views and needs. So firstly, just to talk about the preconceptions that young people might have of researchers. This is the kind of starting point that some young people might come to mental health research with. So Gemma described thinking of researchers as professors in white lab coats. So I think reading between the lines, there's something about kind of the impersonal nature of researchers in our imagination. Anya described imagining researchers as just being there to get information. So there wasn't a real sense that researchers were compassionate, kind, warm, and so on. That leads me to the second point, just the importance that researchers are really friendly and warm. So Anya said it's really important that mental health researchers are like 10 times more friendly and approachable than a normal person. This was a sentiment echoed by other people as well. Gemma said she appreciated when there was time to simply have a bit of a laugh with the researchers. The final point I want to make here is just about the researchers' understanding of the young people's experiences and views. India describes an example that we might not want to emulate when doing research. So India said, I think sometimes what I've seen is, researchers get annoyed or angry or just have the expectation that, this young person will stay on throughout the whole project and attend every meeting. And it's like, well, actually that person might not be in the best place mentally, or they might not be able to commit to that long period. Many other young people expressed appreciation of the researchers who were understanding about both their mental health and their desires to be involved in the research as much or as little as they wish, and sharing only as much or as little as they were comfortable with. So the final sub-theme to talk about here is just an overarching sub-theme really about the creation of a safe space. Obviously that's very related to the young people's relationships with each other and with the researchers, but we thought it was an important theme to give a bit of space. So we made it a separate sub-theme. So I'm just going to make 2 points here and offer a few quotes to illustrate them. So first is why it's important to feel safe, and second is how young people felt safe. So why is it important that young people feel safe? Well, from the researcher's perspective, you only feel comfortable talking about stuff when you feel safe. That's a quote from Anya. So really, Anya is suggesting that it's vital that people feel comfortable if they're going to be talking about mental health related things. In the absence of that safety or the wider support, it could also lead to the young people taking it upon themselves to care for themselves, and they may not be very well equipped to do that. So India said being involved in the research was very much, she had to kind of take care of herself fully, and she felt she wasn't going to get any support from the researchers. She said they were kind of just there to do the research, and I think implying that they weren't there to support her as perhaps she needed. Secondly, I just want to make to illustrate the point about how some young people felt safe. So Gemma said an important facet of feeling safe was not feeling forced to share. Anya describes a positive experience of this, where she said, we would go around the group saying whatever we wanted to say, and if we didn't want to speak, that was fine. India just adds one more point to this. When young people did want to share, it was important that they didn't feel like they were being judged for what they were sharing.
Yeah, so now we're going to move on to talk about the third theme, which focuses a lot on kind of skills and knowledge that young people felt that they gained from taking part in research, but also about how their experiences facilitated personal growth. So oftentimes young people discussed how the skills and knowledge they gained from participating in research opened doors for their academic and professional lives, and also had a lot of benefits for their personal development. So the first sub-theme within this is the opportunity to grow as a young researcher. So research offered an educational platform for young people to learn more about the mental health sphere, providing them with insight into, different angles on mental health, things that they hadn't necessarily heard about before, and really gaining more knowledge. Young people are also able to learn about the practicalities of doing research, as well as gaining analysis skills. So this knowledge was particularly valuable to young people studying psychology at A-level or at university, with one participant even highlighting the uniqueness of research as a learning experience by comparison to her studies. So she noted that she actually had a better understanding of research through her various participations than she had gained through her studies. So really showing that the benefit of having that practical experience. Related to that, a lot of participants noted that taking part in mental health research actually promoted their interest in psychology, which for some influenced their studies and even their career paths. So we've got a really nice quote from Gemma up on the slides there saying that, if she hadn't done kind of these involvements, if she hadn't had her own struggles that promoted her to be involved, that prompted her to be involved in research in the first place, she probably wouldn't have gone on to do like a psychology degree. So I think that really illustrates the kind of long-term impact that this can, that participating in research at quite a young age can have on your professional development. Yeah, and also this initial involvement opened a lot of doors. So young people expressed that they were offered more and more opportunities to take part in different projects after that initial involvement. So that offered them the opportunity to cumulatively build up their skills and knowledge. And then with that snowballing involvement, young people mentioned some specific opportunities that they'd had to do really cool things like go on TV or write a book, speak at conferences and different events, and that this is really an ongoing thing. So once they've kind of breached that initial involvement, they get more and more opportunities as they go through. So that sub-theme in total kind of captures the idea that mental health that being involved in mental health research offers young people an opportunity to develop a number of skills, knowledge and insight, as well as gaining access to additional opportunities. And this is also quite strongly related to our second sub-theme, which is called Helping My Journey to Get to Where I Want to Be. So young people said that they gained valuable experiences that they could put on their resumes, CVs, applications, and they noted that this might be a good way to motivate other young people to get involved. So one example was around kind of UCAS applications, people saying, well, if you advertise this as a good thing to put on your UCAS application to get into university, you'd probably get quite a lot of young people who are keen to get involved. They also noted that it'd be really useful actually if researchers explicitly talked them through what they were trying to teach them or what they might gain out of the research, and actually how they could describe that on their CVs. The research experiences also gave them a lot of transferable skills and experiences that they could use in their academic and professional careers. So an example of this, Elijah improved his art skills, India improved her time management, Blake was able to apply his knowledge to his area of work, and Leah was able to use her confidence and experiences to facilitate other research groups. So really transferable skills that they're using in other parts of their lives, and really helping them along with what they want to do. Young people also expressed that tangible recognition in the form of certificates or awards would really augment the meaningfulness and the transferability of their research experiences. We entered into a discussion in a lot of the interviews about financial incentives, and so a lot of young people said that they really liked getting a financial incentive, but it doesn't but these rewards don't necessarily have to be monetary. So there's a nice quote from Maya there. Sometimes you do it just because you want to participate. Nevertheless, financial incentives were seen as an added bonus, and it was important to young people that they were able to get something out of it. So that's where it kind of ties into the idea of kind of getting awards and certificates showing, as physical evidence of your participation and recognition of that. So overall, this sub-theme kind of captures how young people can utilize the skills and knowledge from being involved in research as a springboard for professional and academic development, as well as continuing to kind of get those opportunities and use them in their lives. Yeah, so now we're going to hand over to Rose, who's done some recordings for us about kind of the other sub-themes from this theme. This was quite a large theme, so we split it up.
Under the sub-theme, help in my journey to understand the value of my voice, many participants expressed that they had improved their confidence by taking part in research. Being provided with the opportunity to share their opinions and ideas at meetings and larger events meant that young people were able to learn about the value of their contributions. This is perfectly captured by Julia, who said that she learned the worth of herself in terms of what she's capable of and having the confidence to say that she's right. Participants highlighted that young people could be hesitant to contribute or lack confidence in the value of their opinion, but that their involvement allowed them to gain confidence in their voice as a young person. This wasn't necessarily taught. Young people gained confidence just by taking part in activities and events, as expressed here by Frankie. An important facet of this learning experience was the response of the researchers. When young people shared their opinions, it was important that they felt heard and understood. Participants emphasised that they felt researchers really wanted to listen to them, which was actively demonstrated by the researchers writing things down and following on from their points with a discussion to ensure they knew exactly what they were talking about. Positive feedback, specifically from adults, provided reassurance, as did seeing how their viewpoints shaped projects. This offered young people a learning opportunity to realise that their opinion is important and that they will be taken seriously. There was a definite focus here on the response of adults as opposed to other young people. Young people further emphasised how positive feedback and active listening meant that their involvement didn't feel tokenistic. It was important that young people were viewed as a whole person, not just there to give a PPI perspective. Following on from discussions about gaining confidence in their own voices and understanding their worth, young people emphasised the need for youth-led research, saying things like, anything that young people can be involved in, they should be. Our participants had a keen understanding of how young people know what's best for young people. As such, multiple participants highlighted the need to involve young people from the beginning of the research process, and that every effort should be made to foreground young people's voices. Overall, this sub-theme tells a story in which young people begin to understand the value of their contributions and, therefore, gain confidence in their ability to express their opinions. The positive feedback they receive from adults further reinforces this learning experience. The more they see themselves as capable contributors to the research process, the more they understand the value of their voices and the critical input of young people in research that concerns them. This sub-theme, about learning about myself and others, describes the way in which young people experienced personal growth and connections with others. Young people identified that their participation has helped them to understand themselves better, like Leah did, and to understand others too, as Harry found. Young people also expressed that they learned to better understand other people's perspectives by talking to other young people about their experiences, both shared and different, and hearing people's opinions on quite sensitive topics. It was evident that hearing other people express similar experiences or opinions was comforting and reassuring, whereas hearing different opinions was thought-provoking and aided learning and growth. As Harry mentioned, this helped to understand others as well as provide a supportive community. Young people also noted that they experienced an increase in social confidence, with some sharing that they were able to overcome initial social anxiety. Social confidence appears to build over time just by being part of a group, not necessarily being a taught skill. Several people highlighted that the particular benefit of this is being able to speak in groups and speak to strangers confidently. Many people shared that they were particularly nervous when it was a new environment, new activities, and a lot of new people to meet, but with time they were able to get over the initial social anxiety and feel more comfortable by the end. Young people also learned to better communicate with others in a group setting, with some receiving teaching on how to facilitate a group meeting, developing skills to speak with people of other ages, and learning practical skills like writing emails. Overall, taking part in research has enabled young people to learn more about themselves by improving their emotional literacy and social confidence, as well as others, by better understanding others' perspectives and being able to communicate well. Some of these skills were directly taught by researchers, but many seem to have developed naturally simply by being a part of the research process. Considering the sub-theme, prioritising education, the active role of the researcher. There is a contrast in participants' experiences regarding the level of education received prior to and throughout the research process. Some participants felt that they were given appropriate training and education from the start and building up, whereas others felt lost at times. Participants recognised that a sound understanding is important for their own development as well as for the research project, so it's worth the investment. This closely links to another main point highlighted by many participants, the importance of having a supportive environment in which participants feel able to ask questions to clarify their understanding and improve their input. By cultivating an environment in which participants can ask questions when they don't understand, the researchers find out where the gaps in knowledge lie and can begin to address them. For example, Cara shared that the researchers frequently asked if anyone had any questions, and she felt it was easy to ask anything. Participants appear to value the different methods in which some researchers delivered training and content, most notably hands-on learning and interactions, with Julia explaining that this hands-on immersion is what made her feel more engaged. Similarly, drop-in sessions were highlighted as useful because participants could come with specific questions to gain better understanding of research and the project. Numerous participants highlighted that they either did like or would have liked researchers asking them directly what they hoped to gain from their involvement, and then acting upon those requests. If a young person had the chance to think about and express what skills they would like to develop, they could tailor their experience to gaining specific skills. Once those skills have been identified, young people recognise that it's important to reflect upon those skills throughout the project. As Frankie shared, it's useful going forward to be able to recognise the skills developed and be able to put them, for example, in a personal statement. Young people also shared that they received practical help that extended beyond the scope of research, such as Elijah, who was able to make a connection that helped with his GCSE portfolio. Overall, education is important to young people. They want to learn about research and project specifics, as well as more transferable skills, and they want to be involved in identifying and reflecting upon those skills so they can take it forward into other areas of life.
Great, so I'm just going to share about the last theme, which is around increasing opportunities. So I'm just going to share some reflections from our other co-researcher, Jodie. So I'm just going to share them with you now. So this theme is called Increasing Opportunities, which is really nicely demonstrated by the quote, "I think everyone should get the opportunity to be a part of a research programme." So the first sub-theme is called A Mysterious World, Lack of Awareness of Research Opportunities. So you can see some quotes on the screen there. So we found that often young people are unaware that research involvement is even an option for them. It doesn't seem as though low involvement levels are due to a lack of wanting to be involved. It's simply because it's an unknown area. Even when young people are aware, they felt as though they had to search for the actual opportunity. For example, one young person said, "It wasn't like it came to me, I kind of had to look for it." Following on from this, another code within this sub-theme describes the inner circle of involvement. So more often than not, young people expressed that they'd heard about research opportunities from an older relative. So the majority of people said, for example, "My mum works in a university," or "I heard about it from my mum who's a psychiatrist." So this created a sort of inner circle whereby young people need a contact to find out about opportunities. So the second sub-theme is around taking account of everyone, so understanding the barriers to participation. So one code is about the importance of respecting and understanding that young people have other commitments. For example, one young person said, "It felt like a lot of work because at one point I had a meeting or 2 or 3 meetings every week." As a result, they expressed that involvement was best when it was flexible and they didn't have to attend every meeting, and researchers were understanding that they had other priorities. Another code within this section was around the idea of external support. So some young people expressed how this support came from school. For example, one quote said that having the support of the school and the teachers to give me time off was useful and helpful. Others talked about parental support, and without that, would not feel able to take part in those opportunities. Another code within this sub-theme was around how working online enables a unique type of flexibility to make involvement better suited to personal preferences. So we've already talked in the earlier theme about the fact that some young people preferred having face-to-face options, but I think there's also this key idea around actually that online opportunities does offer that flexibility, and other things around anonymity, and might remove other barriers, for example, around getting a lift from parents to go to an event. And the third sub-theme here is around widening the net, so improving outreach and engagement. So one of the main recommendations from young people was to advertise opportunities in ways that are more accessible to young people. So the two main suggestions were around social media, with one person describing this as the most powerful tool that you could have, and the other main way through schools. So suggestions including posters or informing young people in assembly. And another key part of this sub-theme was around the idea of reaching underrepresented groups. So there's a particular focus on ethnic groups. Young people suggested researchers should make an active effort to reach out to young people that may not have the opportunity to have a say before, who otherwise wouldn't have been involved. And this was nicely demonstrated by a quote from Gemma, who said, especially those from disadvantaged backgrounds, this is their window into research, and they're not going to have this otherwise. So overall, this theme shows that for young people, based on their experiences, research is a really great thing to be involved in, and this opportunity should be extended to other young people. This captures both some of the problems and the solutions to this issue of increasing engagement and opportunities.
Yeah, so that's a nice look at all of the themes and their individual sub-themes. So hopefully you can kind of see how all of these fit together into this idea of like having all of these opportunities to gain all of these things and take all these great things away from research, and also how young people want other people to have those opportunities, and also how they want to be able to access themselves. Yeah, so I think we're now going to have a little discussion of kind of the implications of what those findings actually mean. So I'll hand back over to Becca.
Great, thanks, Lo. Yeah, so thank you all for listening to our findings, and yeah, really great to hear your thoughts. So we just put on the screen here a few ideas that we've had based on our discussions within the team and with the co-researchers based on the data of some ways that researchers can actually practically make sure that young people are benefiting from those experiences. So things like building in time and resource for non-research interactions, are giving young people time to actually build those connections, making sure young people can see the impact they're having, so following up with things and outputs, and really showing where their contribution has come in. And really this key idea around prioritising skill development, giving young people the opportunity to actually apply their skills. And in that last theme, just really important sort of ideas around actually getting young people able to access these opportunities.
We just wanted to thank some key partners who have been absolutely pivotal to the project, really. So particularly we wanted to thank Rachel Temple and colleagues at the McPin Foundation. Obviously they've been absolutely key partners to this, and I think my colleague Heather's just popped in a link to their young people's network, which are really worth checking out. We also wanted to thank Christina McMillan from the Triumph Network up in Glasgow, who has been absolutely fantastic advisor to the project, and also our funders. So this project was funded by the Medical Research Council and the Westminster Foundation. So thanks so much for joining us today. We really appreciated your comments and your engagement in this. My final thank you obviously goes to our fantastic team of researchers on this project, Georgia, who was able to join us today, but obviously also Rose, James, Jodie, and of course Becca and Larry. So thanks so much for joining us today.